Good evening, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Okon. We are in the United Kingdom talking about money given by the UK government to the UK people. And if you are living abroad, you do well to contact your government via your local representative, like members of parliament. To if you are in Africa, for example, asking your government through your parliamentarians, members of parliament, to go into parliament and lobby your respective government at their parliament, and asking the government to provide policy, to produce policy intending to provide the welfare system in your country. In Africa, as a continent, Africa is the poorest of the continents of the world, and therefore it is commonsensical for world governments, including government in Africa, to provide welfare in Africa more than anywhere else, including in the industrialized countries of Europe and America and Asia. So it is very human and commonsensical thing for any government of the world to consider helping Africa, getting Africa, the people of Africa, out of poverty, alongside getting the people of the world in Europe, America, and Asia, especially in Britain, out of poverty. Britain is the sixth richest country in the world. Therefore, it is very unreasonable, to say the least, for the UK government to allow the people of Africa to languish in poverty any more than necessary, and therefore it is a matter of urgency in policy and practices to produce policy such as within the welfare support, in addition to employment support, in terms of raising the level of income, in benefit, and also in national minimum and national living wage in the United Kingdom. This policy is urgent and it is commonsensical. Every government of the world should copy something similarly happening in one country, such as happened in Britain, in improving pay for people who work for a living, especially the ones at the lowest scale of earning, and small and medium businesses in the United Kingdom and also across the globe should be supported by the state, supported by the state, working in conjunction with multimillionaires and multimillionaires of the world. I have stated this sentiment over and again on this program. Thank you so much, everyone who have been helping this program, subscribing, watching the videos, sharing the videos with family and friends, clicking notification bell, and also clicking like, as well as doing your best to be an ambassador, the good humanitarian ambassador. This program is about humanity, is about supporting welfare, and also in their end, supporting the process of peace. And if we are to exercise our democratic credential in every country, and also our humanity, we start by getting people of the world out of poverty today, because there is enough wealth. The world is enough. And it is a type of violence, also political inexpedience, to keep any one member of any country or society in poverty. These misconduct, this injustice must stop today. And from today, if we want peace, we must change our attitudes to people, prioritizing humanity over anything else, including even incidences of development, such as you see with wealth, banking, trade, technology, and you name them. The list is endless. Stay tuned, continue watching. Thank you so much. So let us get into it. Let us go into this program. We are talking money in the United Kingdom. We are talking when there are changes within a claim made by individuals who are in need, and these individuals can have situation where their circumstance may change, and their universal credit may or may not be reduced. In this case, if it is reduced, for example, by 5% of a basic standard allowance, for most third-party deductions, more money can be taken for some debts, for example, rent arrears. We talk about third-party deduction in relation to incidences involving, for example, rent arrears, which is a type of debt. And under these circumstances, somebody receiving a universal credit, which includes standard allowance, which I mentioned in the other video. Watching this video, please do so alongside the rest of the video, which I also produce, including on finance and also on the cost of living crisis. With the cost of living crisis is actually income related problem, and the government may say something else, but if people were income competent or reliant, and in the manner where there are a sufficient level of income, there would not be a crisis of the kind we see with the cost of living, and therefore solution including for the cost of living, but beyond the cost of living going forward is for government to increase the level of income in terms of money given to the people who need it. In addition, especially fundamentally also in terms of pay for people who work for living. But with technology on the increase, like I examine and explaining in the rest of the video, technology is the future of employment, as you may see in terms of now government giving providing more money investment funding for investment in technology and generally in infrastructure and capital. This is a good thing for development, but also we need to revisit our cultural economy to modify our attitude towards people, humanity coming first, alongside in terms of value, alongside other values, including values to do with wealth and power and the rest of the things people cherish. As much as these other factors are important, human factor is the most important. This is a driver. Humanity and the care of humanity is a fundamental driver toward the roadmap to peace. In the first instance, in the second, we are investing in long-term stability and our own openness as a species. To say the least, that is the fundamental ingredient for our progress, in addition to what we find with their development. Like I consistently put forward this idea and this notion, and continue watching. We are looking at money, we are looking at debt. I've mentioned on credit economy. I have said credit economy is a major problem which the government should consider changing. Not just the UK government, because of the globalization. The UK government is responsible for Britain, but also for the world, working alongside the factors, the factors of power and influence within the country, but also abroad. And that is the whole idea about the global village, countries without borders, which is a good thing for unity, peace. So we should believe. So these things are not going to come, piecemeal. We must work together to achieve peace on earth. And what I'm saying is at the heart of peacemaking and peace building. We can use guns and bombs and warfare such as we see in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas, and in addition to what we see between Ukraine and Russia, alongside other military violence and warfare and confrontation. This does not bring peace. It actually makes peace, the peace of process, the peace, the prospect for peace more elusive. And we actually look at this over and again. And our life revolves around bringing peace, because peace is the essence of our livelihood, of our existence, of our survivability. And it is because of peace that we also hope to be happy. I mean, it may sound very maybe very obscure in terms of understanding that, our happiness depends on whether we live peaceful or not in families, with friends. If you are peaceful with your friend, you are going to be happy. You are going to maintain that friendship with your parents, also with your employer, or with your colleagues in politics, in government, in whatever walk of life you may find yourself. If you maintain the peace, you will achieve the happiness. The fundamental goal of life is happiness. That is an end in itself as it is. But the roadmap to happiness is actually peace. And the roadmap to peace is justice and equality and all the other aspects of society, including in terms of development, but fundamentally in terms of our culture. Respect for self, respecting other people. Let us look at the credit system, which need to be changed, how it affects your money if you are someone who is in need of help. And these dynamics are enshrined in policy and practices. I've been mentioning this. And if you're a child, if you're an adult, if you're a young person, if you're elderly, we are all in this together. We are a family, black or white, male or female. You name it. As long as you are human, in whichever world you are, we need to work together to bring peace. So let us get on with looking at these fundamentals. They will never get more than third party deduction at a time. In the most cases, no more than 25% of your standard allowance, which can be taken. Now, you will never get more than three third party deduction at a time, and in most cases, no more than 25% of your standard allowance, which can be taken. Now, what they are saying in English is that there are limits. There is a maximum ceiling of third-party deduction. Third-party deduction is important because these are people who are your creditor, who you borrow money for, or you incur credit in terms of maybe energy debt you didn't pay, your obligations, and these are some of the things I will mention critically. Demanding the government to change policy radically, raising the level of income so that people don't get into debt. Also supporting families and the communities in the skill how to deal with debt, but also supporting individuals and communities to develop capacity for financial capability, so that they are empowered to manage their own affairs. And this is the way forward, but it needs funding from the government. It needs the creating of the necessary infrastructures, which are actually aimed at providing a frontline service in terms of advice, support, or other practical things, including training, if necessary. The British citizens should be expert on that, and also the professionals who are already there, willing to help, should be supported. They should be resourced by government so that they can support us all on the competence and also capacity to manage debt. Debt is a major problem affecting income. It doesn't matter how much money you are given, if you don't know how to manage debt, and also if you cannot learn financial capability in the modern world, then you're in serious trouble. You will remain in debt. So there will be two-pronged approach by the government to eradicate poverty and unnecessary suffering and hardship. The first in raising the level of income. In the first instance, I have suggested about £30,000 net in per annum as a minimum. If you're working in wages, in minimum and national wages, these should be set at least 30,000 in the United Kingdom, £30,000 as a net. And also in benefit, if you are not working for when you are sick, sickness benefit should be closed down, and there should be one benefit for sickness and for normal living, for rent. Rent element of benefit should also be shut down, and also things like council tax benefit should also be shut down. all the discretionary payments should be shut down because they are a menace. They create more problems. They are really costly administratively, but also in terms of resourcing, in budgetary, as in the government budgetary requirement. It is a menace. It's a problem which is based on ideology. They are actually very costly in terms of money, in terms of wealth. They are wasteful and very destroying of society. And I'll say this over and again: if the government has ears, let us hear. If it doesn't, then the people should unlock their mouths and minds and speak truth to power. We need to do this, and we will do it because this is our life, this is our country. Thank you very much. Continue watching. And we are looking at in the United Kingdom money given to people who need it, which is in this example is called universal credit. There are different types of benefit, like I said just now, and it should be now unified. And one benefit should be given in terms of policy and more importantly in terms of practice. The government said they are going to reform the benefit system. They just wrap it up in a blanket kind of like a facility, and made it more complicated, and even made it the only way the simplified benefit system is to cut it down quickly to frustrate people who want to get it. It is actually it's a very unprogressive approach to society. Let me say it in that way. If we wanted peace, if we genuinely wanted people to be helped, we would make the accessing benefit easier. We would stop some useless rhetoric, such as we need people to get into work. People, if they want to get to work, they can get to work. We should not turn into some dangerous dictatorship in a country, in an age where we advocate freedom, where we seek to exercise free democracy, and we are seen by the world and also within our own countries to be world leaders in promoting freedom. And now you find policies such as the one involving universal credit and social policy, public policy generally, is actually showing the government true color of being some of the worst dictatorship in the world. And Britain publishing these policies and implementing these policies is so dry. They are exercising the utmost of draconian behavior, which is a reminiscent of some of the worst dictatorship you can see anywhere in the world. By implementing this hostile policy, we have actually turned back time, going back into the decades of when the decades when we were so backward, in the decades when we were so violent, we were so crude, we were so uncultured, we were like almost like in the age when we were still living like animals. We see this policy is inconsistent of our idea or even our reality to do with civilization. It is uncivil. It is a very monstrous kind of policy, and it is a poor reflection on government, which we in this country have trusted for decades for being our guardian, to being the arbiter of peace in our countries, including here in Britain, of course, around the world. And this is a betrayal of what the government is, the government, some kind of its sinister intention based exercise in the policy, including the policy on benefit in the United Kingdom, but also reflected in the housing and employment. And the whole thing is very dangerously violent and very crude. And I say this: let us be peaceful if we want to, and the government should lead the roadmap to peace by changing the way it treats public policy and social policy, and the way it provides support in terms of housing. Housing is a toxic environment as a public entity, and we have seen the policy, and going forward, hopefully I will be looking at housing. You will, if you're interested, see. But you see, one of the worst anathema we find in our society is where our people are so relaxed, and they are sleeping, thinking the government is really doing everything for them. But the government have said this consistently, that it is, it's washing its hand. The British people are on their own as it is. The government have really said it severally that, in every department, government department, the attitude is now for something called empowerment, which is, you have to be independent. Especially the conservative members of parliament in the government and outside the government advocated something resembling, saying we do not need to be nunning. Nunning means they are not babysitters. They are not, they don't want nanny state. This political rhetoric you find with extremist right-wing politicians across the globe, especially here in the United Kingdom, especially among the conservative of the current government. This nastiness, political rhetoric, expressing views such as they don't want nanny state. They are insulting British people. British people have entrusted the country to the government to run on their behalf, and poverty is an indication that the government has neglected the 90% of the population, and increasingly wealth is being concentrated in the hand of the few. Fewer and fewer people are now accessing more and more wealth, and more members of the population, not just in the United Kingdom but globally, are accessing less and less wealth. And this is a breaking point, setting society at a breaking point now. There is a ticking time bomb. We are on the verge of a lot of calamity. This is our life. This is a life and death issue. And it is about time now we pay attention to what the government is doing. It is the British government's responsibility to directly or indirectly hold the UK government into account and hold it to account to make sure it's doing what it promises to do at politics. I'm not accusing the British government of lying, but if you say one thing and promise one thing and deliver something else, then for the British government, people to gently remind you, and I call upon the British people, the public, to mobilize as individuals and communities and families and begin to speak. If you keep quiet, that is fine. The people who believe in freedom of speech, even if we are not that free, I'm not advocating utopianism. I'm not suggesting perfectionism of society. We live in the real world, but we need to exploit every avenue still available, especially if we are given the opportunity to speak and we keep quiet. We strangle our own necks. We put our freedom to a condition of serfdom, we become slave. We willingly become slave by refusing to take the opportunity to speak for ourselves. We want somebody else to speak for us. I'm not accusing the British people. I'm not accusing the people of the world. We have to really realize the seriousness of our condition, because the government is now incapacitated. For one reason or another, maybe the government itself is subjected to a higher power than we would care to realize. Whatever is happening with the government, we need to realize that things are really getting worse, and in terms of the injustice, in terms of the lack of peace, in terms of cultural failure. I have said this over and over, and leave a comment below and let me know your thinking. This is an opportunity for you to form a view. One way or the other, this channel, as long as this channel exists, I will do everything in my power to make sure we start a conversation, or in one way or the other, directly or indirectly. Let us get back to looking at this specific policy, which specific policy I've been looking at, and also illustrating it in terms of looking at the wider situation of policy and practices. I've said this consistently. We are looking at universal credit. We are looking at third-party deduction. We are looking at a situation of credit. If you borrow some money and you're on benefit, the level of benefit being so low, the government still allow your money to be deducted by people who are always often multimillionaires and multimillionaires. They take money from widows, they take money from orphans, they take money from single mothers, single fathers, they take money from disabled people, they take money from people who are so poor they struggle to put food on the table. These are multimillionaires. They are the housing millionaires. I should really say there are small and medium housing entrepreneurs, investors, I should say, who may be millionaire, but they are not really exactly extremely rich. And these housing providers, who are small and medium, should be supported by the government because they are part of the victim classes of Britain who are being excluded by the government policy. The government is now concentrating on supporting the super rich who are owners of big corporations. And not all private housing providers are multimillionaires or multimillionaires. These should be supported by the government alongside people who are small and medium businesses employing people who work for a living. These should be supported alongside employees who are subjected to low-level pay. If the government insists on low-level pay, they should, everybody who is working on a minimum wage or living wage, whatever you call it, because the level is so low, these should be paid the full amount of benefit. But to correct the human wrong, we need to increase the level of benefit on the one hand, but also of pay, and also supporting small and medium businesses with grants, especially if they are not performing to a reasonable income threshold. If they are generating net profit to the tune of more than the minimum wage, then they don't need to be helped. The government can just concentrate on managing the economy so that all the businesses in the country can perform well. But with or without stability in the economy, there has to be a method of redistributing wealth, because there is enough wealth. Even if the system may be unstable, there are a lot of wealth lying idle in one place or another. And if you think of all the wealth created in the last decades or millennia, the wealth are there, but the wealth are just hoarded. Some of these wealth are rotting and being wasted by multimillionaires and multi-billionaires instead of giving this wealth support life and livelihood of the majority who are increasingly being excluded from world resources being controlled by a few individuals who hoard it. They are preventing the majority of people who need to access it to support their fundamental existence, like accessing food, energy, housing, clean water, medicine, sending their children to school, public transport. All these basic necessities need to be really supported by the government, every government. You don't wait when there are elections and then you begin to show that you are on the side of the people, trying to who vote from voters, and as soon as you're elected, you walk away and forget and start being nasty and really being very terrible to the British people. I'm using the British people and the British country as an illustration of what's happening globally. Thank you so much for being part of this project. Let us look at the priority deductions, as they call it in terms of policy. The Department of Work and Pensions can tax a maximum of 40% of your standard allowance, but their current policy is to take no more than 25%. But that all that fail in significantly is actually acted in vain, because you see, not a penny or even any iota of money should be taken from people who are already extremely poor for whatever reason. If people incur debt, the government should give them more benefit to pay debt. And this policy is failing because it's not within policy that if poor people are experiencing debt, the government doesn't actually give them more money to pay debt. Instead, they take money to pay debt. This debt being paid to people most of the time, people who are multimillionaires and multi-billionaires. These multi-billionaires and multi-millionaires should automatically forgive debt, but the government may or may not support them financially or in some other way. But if you are already a multi-millionaires and multi-billionaire, and poor people are borrowing money from you, and you are taking their benefit to pay your debt, the money is coming to somebody who is so rich, and it is so wrong. And these debts are actually charged with interest to people who are already, being deprived to the bonds. They are so poor. It's as if they don't even live in a developed world. I can't really help but, talk about this thing because this is just getting out of control. It is out of control, and if we can, do something about it now, it's going to be really good. For example, they will make deduction to cover a housing debt before taking money to cover a loan. So you could say, we talk about priority debt, prioritizing debt. These are actually useful skills, but only we have to work some financial threshold, such as adequate payment of salary, adequate payment of benefit, because we cannot even plan when we have nothing. Benefit without debt, the burden of debt is terrible enough, because it goes nowhere near lifting the British people out of poverty. So let us look at the material. I'll stay tuned, continue watching. Thank you so much. And for details of the priority order, see page 10 of chapter D12 of Universal Credit Advice on gov.uk, decision of advice for decision makers on gov.uk. Decision makers are actually people of the government. This information also relates to them, but it relates to ordinary people also. You can learn about it. You can access this online. Go to gov.uk and also the other website I mentioned when I recorded the other video. So you can also contact your nearest citizen advice if you think you won't have enough money to live on. An advisor can help you budget and ask the Department of Work and Pension to change their decisions or make an appeal if suitable. For example, you might be able to appeal how much they are taking off your universal credit or for rent arrears, deduction for gas and electricity. Gas and electricity are priority bills. They are fundamental. People should access it free of charge. The government should not charge. They should pay energy company to supply free gas and electricity in the United Kingdom. They should actually, in terms of public housing, British people should not pay rent on public housing. The government should build houses and give it to people to live in, and also pay for gas and electricity through raising level benefit, so that people can set up arrangement with energy supplier and water supplier, so that they can take money directly from bank accounts. But the money should be there when benefits raised to the level of £30,000 per annum. Also, if you work for living, and you shouldn't be in debt in Britain by way of low income incidences. So you also you can also you can make your pay you can make so you can also pay your ongoing energy bills from your benefit. This is what they'll talk about. I mean, I would say the best thing is actually for people to pay by whatever method, because the money should be there, and you can talk of benefit. Money being taken from benefit to pay energy bills. This is evil. It is extremely wrong for people who are already living in poverty to be even asked to pay energy bills, and failing to pay energy bill, which they fail to pay energy bill, not because they are stupid, but because they are poor in Britain. The reason people get into debt, the primary reason why people get into debt, is because they are poor, they don't have the money. So that is a mistake created by the government. We may also suggest that the government is not responsible for everything. Nobody said the government should be responsible for everything. The government should be responsible for an adequate level of income and also supporting us all to deal with debt and indebtedness more effective. That's what we are talking about, which is missing. So you can continue to use deduction to pay your ongoing energy bills once you are paid off your debt. You want to do this. If you want to do this, you can contact your supplier. All this information are very useful, but in practice they are really almost worthless because it's all about money. If the government is the government should come clean. That's what I'm saying. So deduction of water areas. We talk about water. Water is becoming increasingly a problem because in theory, the policy is saying you can treat the debt in relation to debt relating to water is non-priority. In the sense, non-priority means you are in debt with the water company. The law prevents water companies from restricting the service, which means cutting supply of water. The government now is still trying to set in place that policy, but the writing is on the wall. Sooner or later, people are going to be. Most people are now not able to even access hot water, let alone accessing water. And there are increasingly threats on water supply where if you don't pay, there are situations where they keep writing you letters. And if you don't respond, they will begin to threaten to, to cut off your supply, assuming that you are not actually there, but because you are not responding to them. So sooner or later, people will find water company cutting off their water supply, and the government can also change policy where if you don't pay for water, your water is going to be cut off, and it means people are going to start dying because they don't have access to water. Water, you can stay without food for a few days, but you cannot stay for food for a week without you cannot stay without water, drinking water especially, for a week. So that is the evil which is creeping. I don't know if the government understand that their behavior is a very evil thing. If you prevent people from accessing food, which is what is happening now, people are going into food banks, and food banks are not providing healthy food. They are actually they're providing very low quality food, which is an insult to the British people. British people are being treated worse than dogs. And this is in the 21st century, in the 6th richest country. Some of the richest people live in Britain. And why are we doing this? What is happening to us? We do not even seeming to care. I'm not blaming rich people. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just trying to talk about this so that people realize that we are going about our lives in a very dangerous way. We seem not to care about things which matter, and we are going to be suffering. And if we are suffering, we need to come together as communities and start talking among ourselves. In every neighborhood, there should be a conversation. How do we solve the problem of poverty? In the United Kingdom, poverty is a deliberate policy. Nobody should be poor in a rich country. And also, even in a poor continent like Africa, the incidence of poverty can be improved significantly enough even to get Africans out of poverty. I keep saying this. So let us look at water, the condition, deduction for water areas. You'll talk about deduction for water areas. We'll talk about debt in relation to water supply in households, which money can be deducted from benefit. Benefit is already no money at all. I mean, people who won't benefit are extremely poor. This is deliberately done by the UK government to make the British people deliberately poor by paying very little benefit and very little employment and salary or wages for people who work for living. So there is nowhere to run for the people who are poor, and more will be losing their job because of technology. And a lot of people are complaining that when you talk like this, you people are you are actually very talking about very depressing subjects. So be it, because you see, I am depressed already because I know there is a problem, and if you think, especially if you are on benefit, if you work for a living and you are only you small and medium business self-employed, you are a very poor person, and that is depressing enough. You can bury your head in the sand and pretend everything is fine. That is okay. That is your choice. But everybody should have to engage with this and start solving the problem. Do we need to engage with the government, British government, to bring changes immediately? Because we cannot. If we don't do that, we are going to die. And the poor people will die first, but because of violence, because poverty is a form of violence, because of violence, rich people will ultimately kill themselves, because violence simply means we are culturally uneducated. That's what it means. So wealth does not factor into it. Wealth solve problem of poverty in terms of specifics, the thing to do with wealth. But there is a type of wealth which is humanitarian, which we may not see it. It is our feelings, it is our attitude, it is our mindset. That is a form of wealth which is not seen, which is cultural. That is more difficult to access because it takes time, it takes investment, it takes a lot of commitment, so that we begin to behave like normal people and try to work to look after ourselves and try to work and use technology and other factors of society to try and improve our lives, improving our lives, and also doing research like some good people maybe are now trying to do, trying to look at solving the problem of diseases. We don't know where these diseases come from most of the time. When new infection come, epidemic or pandemic comes, we don't know where they come from. Like COVID-19 up to date, we have conflicted theories where they came from: HIV, AIDS, cancer. You name all the terrible diseases now happening. We don't know where these things are coming from. We should now be paying attention to see how to address those health conditions. But the main area of health is actually aging. How are we going to stop aging? If we can deal with aging to stop or even reverse aging, then we are going to start reducing the incidence of mortality. In theory, if we stop aging, we are not going to die. But if other things are still killing us, then we have the resources to eventually eradicate death actually rather. We eradicate death altogether. We may see this that is actually fantasy. Maybe it is, but it is really a very important aspect of our culture and our society. We need to be thinking we use our human resources to improve our life, not really to destroy it. But now we seem to be going the opposite direction of destruction other than construction, in terms of pulling apart other than building together to build a brighter future and a more peaceful and happy future. We can do one thing or another. We can go one way or the other. We can go the way of war and violence and self-annihilation and total destruction and extinction, or we can do the right way. We can go the right way, rebuilding our life, using all the resources to bring peace. We can do both. And that's why I'm speaking, because I know there is hope. If we are able to do bad things, we can do good things. And that is as simple as that. So look at the deduction of rent arrears. Rent arrears, similarly to water, is also can be subjected to third-party deduction. And the part of work and pension can make deduction of your money in if you're in rent arrears, including for water, service, and other charges included in your rent. And we have spoken about this. According to the Department of Work and Pension Regulation, the deduction of between 10% or 20% may be taken, which implies the amount is discretionary. You can challenge the Department of Work and Pension decision to take a 20% deduction. We are being treated like slaves. So you can submit evidence of your personal circumstance, for example, other debts, deduction. You have to really beg them. You cannot rest. There is no peace for the wicked, and that is what we are being subjected to as a country. And if we treat the poor badly, the rich will not rest, because we are part of community. Some people despise the idea of community because they are insane. Because if you persecute one section of the society, especially if they're in the majoritarian composition, there's no peace for everyone. No, for, because we practice wickedness, we suffer. So let's look at the maximum amount the power working person can deduct for court fines, which is about 5% of the U.S. standard allowance. Standard allowance is the main body of your money given by the government. The others are called element, which should also be scrapped, and one payment should be made in terms of benefit. You can ask for a small deduction if the amount of universal credit is being reduced, means you don't have enough money to live on, which is obvious. You might have universal credit deduction for a benefit debt. Benefit debt if you borrow because you're waiting for your benefit, which is complete nonsense. A social fund loan, which is what you can also borrow if you are in hardship, rent arrears, if you're trying to pay your rent and you cannot afford to pay your rent, or you made some other financial or income problem, a mistake, then you won't be able to pay one thing or another. You will need to show the part of working pensions that you don't have enough money to live on. This is called financial hardship, which is a very nice concept. You will need to give them a financial statement showing your income and what you spend on your money on. So you are not even allowed to be free to do as you please with your money simply because you're poor. This is not the government is treating British people as if they are 5-year-olds. Where did you spend your money? I mean, you are being inquisition because you are a poor person. You are being treated like you are suffering from mental illness. And you how much money did we give you? You gave us £400 or £300 last month. What did you spend it on? Now, if you are multimillionaires, multi-billionaire, you are treated with respect, and the same respect we want to be accorded to poor people in this country, to bring at least some hope of peace. You see, there cannot be peace for people who are wicked. So, treating poor people as if they are some kind of like mentally deranged individual because they are on benefit and they are so despised as if they are second or third or fourth class citizens. What has happened to a first world country like Britain, which is the sixth richest country in the world? And you see some people are actually in the country treated like gods. Why is the disparity? Why is the inequality? We don't mind if some people are treated like God. We don't like poor people treated like as if they are Satan, or as if they are some demons. We are humans. We need our dignity, so you will need to give them a financial statement showing your income and what you spend your money on. Producing a financial statement is an impossibility. You need a professional who is highly trained as a debt advisor to produce financial statement. And the part of working persons are asking ordinary citizens. Some of them are actually elderly. Some of them are mentally challenged in terms of learning disability, which these suffer in so different ways. Some people are deaf, some of them are blind. The government is asking them to produce financial statement, and you will also need to show you can't meet your basic living costs with the current rate of deduction. Are you going to show that you need to really do some really advanced level budgeting, which you don't even know, and you don't even have the time. You might not even have computer. You may not have even a notebook. You may not have a pen because you don't have even money to go to the job center. You can even just, if you have family and friends, maybe they will help you. Some people probably are now dying in their homes because of poverty in the United Kingdom, because how complicated the benefit system is. People who is needing help, and there is going to be less and less employment because of technology. I repeat this, I keep repeating this. Technology is going to take away work, and a lot more and more people. If you go to the supermarket now, it's all automated. There is self-service. Customers are now the new store clerks. In what used to be, employment resources. People who are shop assistant, store assistant, used to be the mainstay of British employment resources. So many people were employed by retail and hospitality. Now, because of technology, which technology is a good thing, is supposed to be really at cause of celebration, but because of political rhetoric, and also I would say really political lunacy, people are being left, they are being hung out to dry this way, and the government doesn't know it, because see, the government is out of touch. It lives in its own world, and bridging the gap between the working class and the ruling class has failed. And as long as we fail, people of the British people are dying, silently, because nobody listens to them. They are cut off. They are like they live in an island. They are forgotten. You see, they sleep, they suffer and suffer. They are persecuted over and over and over. This kind of condition is across the globe because of capitalism. Because the government has really renegated. They have refused to support public sector. They also refuse to provide resources, the basic resources to the British people, to the people of the world. What happened in Britain happened in the other world. And we need to really pay attention to this. So let us look at this material here. You will also need to show you can't meet your basic living costs with the real, with the current rate of deduction. So why did you deduct their money then? I mean, the Department of Work and Pension give you money. They should know you are already poor, and they still deduct your money and ask you, tell us how much you're suffering. they are the one who give you low pay in benefit. And also, they know you're probably getting low pay, because see, in what we get from the Department of Work and Pension, we get through our employer. If you're in debt, your money is deducted through your employer, and this is the problem. And the government is not really caring about anybody. If you work for a living, you're on minimum wage, you're already so stretched. You're overly stretched. The reason you get into debt, not because you want to be, something is wrong with you, because you're poor. Poverty is driving the British people into indebtedness. And the government still punishes more for being in debt. It's like, you have been a slave for more than 12 years. You have been afflicted for so long. And you just, when you think, your imprisonment into poverty is about to come to an end, you get more and more. You see, if you look at this state of affairs, which is a bills, one day we wake up into a Britain which is tantamount to being in hell, living in hell on earth, because you cannot rest. You learn from one trouble, you just try to stop and start resting. There is no rest for the wicked, because we have turned our society into a type of hell. You see, there is beauty, there is ugliness, there is wealth, and there is stinking poverty. You go and walk around and see the glitters, which is the cities and towns and estates of places in Britain. And yet you see this rottenness, this really stinking situation involving income, involving benefit, including employment. This must stop today, and this is a kind of suffering which people are now suffering. I don't know why this is happening. It has to change. Let us look at this material. You can send this information through your online journal. If you don't know how to use computer, what are you going to do? You just go in circle, over and over and over and over, like, you bring this, okay, go and get another one. You bring this, go and get another one. And you are facing threats from your creditors. You are, facing bailiffs. You are facing horror stories, because you see, if you pay debts, if you don't pay debts, you go into debt, because you see, there is no money from the government. Therefore, the British people are going to be relying on debt, and there is no credit also. Credit companies are shutting down, because you see, this credit company must be supported by the public sector. The public sector is closing down. The government, you see, private companies cannot provide help in any way, including giving credit, if they don't make profit in the process. For them to make profit through credit system, the government should support them through benefit, through employment, and through other instruments. But if the public sector shut down, the credit system will shut down. And then the British people in the majoritarian component will fail to access income. Only the few, the 5%, the 10% at the top will be able to access resources, which means the rest of the people will die. Leave a comment below if you think this is right, true. If you think it is not true, let us continue watching. Stay tuned. Let us look at this material. And you can send this information through your online journal. I say if you don't know your computer, or you don't have access to computer, you are done. In a letter, if you don't have an online account, and this is theoretical because you have to access it, because if you don't have it at home, they will send you to the public library, and public library is closed. You see, you might have to pay to access online facilities, because if you don't have an online account, you have to have online account, because you see, you have to go to internet cafe, which is private. You have to go to the library. Most of the time, the library service is supposed to be free, but because there's no funding, you may wait for weeks. The Department of Work and Pension doesn't care. You may wait for weeks to access a computer, and you might not even be given a computer. If you go there and you don't know how to use computer, there are no staff members to support you because there is no funding. The library is a public facility. The public sector is closing down. You go everywhere trying to get help, you don't get it because the people are closing down. Public sector is closing down. All the resources, public libraries, town shelters are closing, town halls are closing down, churches are closing down. All the facilities supported directly or indirectly by the government is closing down. It is becoming a ghost town. Society across the globe, including in Britain, is closing down, and what is left is for the few and not for the many. Let us prepare. Let us evolve and become survivors. The ones who survive are going to live longer. Other people are going to be suffering in the next 100 years, 500, 1,000 years. Half population of the world will have gone extinct because of violence. This policy is about violence. There's nothing good about it, and it has to change, and it has to change at the root, at the branch, and at the head. Has to be happening. So let us look at the material anyway. If you think your payment is wrong, you should call the Universal Credit Hotline or ask for an explanation using your online account if you have one. You should do this if your payment is less than you expected and you haven't been told why. So you think there's been a mistake with how your Universal Credit has been worked out. These are some of the situations. You may or may not understand what I'm talking about, but that's okay. You can leave a comment below, and you can visit gov.uk and all the other websites and read. You have to know what is happening in your country. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't subscribed. Leave a comment, share, click like, click notification bell. You are a champion. So let us look at how we can provide evidence. If you have such evidence, if you don't, then share your prayer. It's a good idea to have this evidence. Give the Department of Work and Pension some evidence of the mistake. If you can. I mean, if the mistake is from the Department of Work and Pension, they should be able to discover it. I know in terms of process, in terms of reality, they want you to do anything. They create problem, you have to solve it for them. And that doesn't make sense. Because you see, you have to be, if you are a benefit claimant, you have to have an office to manage your benefit. Because they say you are responsible for your benefit, you are responsible for your local work. The word is responsibility. The British people should be responsible for their life. The government is not wanting to be responsible anymore. They don't want nanny state. They don't. The government is not your nanny. The government is not your mother. It's not your father. So you have to grow up as a British person and look after yourself. Don't think that you're going to get benefit. Don't think the government giving you housing. You're on your own. You have to think how to survive. If you want to go and beg the poor, the rich people, if you can find them, because they lock themselves in luxury places and they are guarded by some effective security infrastructure. You don't find them. They are hiding in some nice places in the UK, across the globe. And in Africa, the wealthy people are hiding from poor people, and they are insulated behind some tight security infrastructuring in the world. There is not just a British thing. When I talk about Britain, I providing a fundamental example. People should be aware and they should be prepared. You must be a survivor. We are in a market jungle. Survival of the fittest is the name of the game. If you learn, if you listen to this video, just you have to start changing your mind. You have to produce, to fine tune your life into a survival mode. If you don't want to survive, you are going to die before your time. I know we are going to die because we haven't conquered immortality. We haven't achieved immortality yet. Which I believe, if we work well, if we do the nice thing, the right thing, we will achieve anything, including immortality. But now we are mortal. We are going to die by accident. We can die young. We can die by old age if we are lucky. Dying before time is a tragic death. The good death is when you die at an old age, when you are 90 years, maybe 100 years. God save Our Majesty the Queen retrospectively. I mean, I hope God has really placed her in a nice place. She died in our mid or late 90s. And I would want to live in after 100 years or even more. Even what is not to like about life. And, that is a different story altogether, but, dying before our time, but more importantly, if we are still alive, we need some modicum of the quality of life. We don't have to be really suffering, and we suffer in different ways because culturally we are really suffering because we do not have friends. We live alone. We even if you are married, your wife will be having an affair with a mobile phone, and your husband will be chatting with a mobile phone. Our mobile phone is our new lovers. Computers are our new lovers. Television is our new lovers. Children wake up straight before even sometimes you give them breakfast, they don't want to eat breakfast because they're watching their favorite cartoon on television now, more and more on their mobile phone. All the toys are now looking like I don't know how to describe them. They look like you're visiting some toy magazine, a museum, and which is a good thing. Entertainment is a good thing, but if we do entertainment at the expense of the human element, human relationship, our life is going to be really bizarre. We are going to be really awkward. And, we are not going to go insane because, you see, there is no substitute to human, the love coming from a human being. This is a cultural problem which is separate, which is even more complicated, the problem involving development and which poverty is under. So poverty is a starting point. We have our work cut out to bring peace, in terms of development, in terms of our culture. So next time we meet, we are going to look at a tenancy agreement in terms of if you think your costs are wrong. So we are actually looking at this material. We will see you in the next one. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't subscribed. Thank you so much for watching. Share the video if you watch it with family and friends. And I'm so privileged that I have been able to undergo this process, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye. Good evening, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Okon. We are in the United Kingdom talking about money given by the UK government to the UK people. And if you are living abroad, you do well to contact your government.